For what is shaped up to be the biggest season in franchise history, it's only right we have a big weekly pregame show to go along with it. Welcome to Texans Pep Talk. I'm Chancellor Johnson, joined by ESPN beat writer DJ Bieniemy on the end, and former offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans and QB guru Pep Hamilton. Pep, I see you decked out in your Houston gear. You must be ready for the season.
Representing the hometown.
Absolutely.
Definitely a homer. Excited about this season, right? We got a lot going on, you know, and just from the standpoint of getting ready for this first game, but we're super excited to see this iteration of the Houston Texans.
How could you not be? It is, as I mentioned, probably the most anticipated season we've seen in franchise history. Expectations are sky high, but what should those expectations be? DJ, I'll start with you.
I think on paper, this is an AFC Championship type of caliber team. When you look at the talent, right? You got Stephon Diggs, you got Tank Dell, you got CJ, you got Nico, you got Sting, Will, Daniil. Like, the list goes on and on and on. I didn't even talk about Joe Mixon and Laramie. Right. You know what I mean?
Ballers, right?
There's a lot of ballers. Titus,
yeah.
There's just a lot of ballers on this team. So I think in terms of pure talent, I think AFC Championship is like where the expectation should be, especially since the fact that they got to the divisional round last year and then they reloaded and spent almost $250 million in terms of guaranteed to bulk up this roster with CJ on a rookie contract.
Pep, I'm sure you wish you had some of those toys when you were coaching not too long ago for him.
Well, I went through a similar progression when I was at the Colts. I was a coordinator at the Colts. First year was 2013. And we had the opportunity to build on the success that they had the prior year. Very similar to what the Texans are dealing with and experiencing with a second-year quarterback that's uber talented. That was the league offensive rookie of the year. You know that the foundation is in place. And on paper, this team, they really don't have any weaknesses. But at the end of the day, you got to go out and play the game. One thing of note is when you look at the Texans organization, they have really good vertical alignment. You have a head coach that has tremendous synergy with the GM and Nick Caserio and ultimately the ownership group.
Well, it starts in week one going on the road to take on the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, you coached there and spent some time there. This seems to be a budding rivalry. We saw even a little bit of trash talk throughout the offseason. DJ, what did you kind of make of some of that back and forth? Obviously, the Texans were able to advance in Indy and beat them in that regular season game, but it seems like this is becoming more and more of a thing.
The Texans say it's not a rivalry. Jalen Peter said, I don't really see much of a rivalry, but let's be for real. Like, this last year came down to the Colts and the Texans. Winning the division was between those two teams. And we've seen what some of the Texans players, I mean, not Texans, but the Colts players have talked about. E.J. Speed saying that he got a bone to pick with the Texans. So let's be honest now. The Texans might be trying to play it cool, but on Sunday, we're going to feel the fact that it's a real rivalry.
From more of a Colts perspective, obviously Jim Irsay, he's a little bit hands-on. You were in that building.
Not a little bit. I can tell Irsay stories for an hour. But nevertheless, I'll say this. Once again, I've had the opportunity to work with both organizations. We're talking about, both ownership groups. And I say ownership groups, really, the McNair family, they're awesome. They'll do anything to make sure that the franchise has what it needs to be competitive. But Jim Irsay, when I say he's hands-on, that's an understatement. There were times in which we were playing the Texans back when I was a coordinator at the Colts, when he actually gave me a mandate. I don't want to see any plays, Coach Pep, where you're not double teaming J.J. Watt. The problem is he told me this on Saturday, the day before the game. Right? But nevertheless, we're talking about two franchises that have two high-level young quarterbacks, and the expectation is to be competitive for a long time.
And they certainly will be. Speaking of one of those quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryans talked, of course, leading up to the game. Here's what they had to say.
I've seen these guys working together, so I'm excited for everyone else to see, how our guys have been working here throughout training camp and OTAs, right? They've done a great job of working really well together. All three phases has done a really great job, starting with the coaches and getting the guys ready to go. So I'm excited for everyone else to see what our guys will look like this year.
It's a divisional game against a great opponent. They're very, very well coached, have a lot of guys who fly around in all three phases, so it'd be a great first challenge for us. And, we're very excited to, go up to Indy and play the Colts.
All right. For more on this matchup, obviously they're going to Indy in a really rowdy environment. What's something that you'll be looking for early in that matchup?
I just want to see, can the Colts cover 3 really affect CJ? Because last year, he had a passer rating of 102 when going against the Colts cover 3 look. And the Colts led the league in cover 3 calls. That's basically what the Colts defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, loves to do. He's a cover 3 guy. Cover 3 till he falls, till he drop dead. Like, that's his thing. That's
some of the numbers right here.
Oh, you see the numbers. And across the league, not just against the Colts. This is what CJ did when they came against cover 3. So, for me, I really want to see how can they come up with something to kind of limit CJ. Because with those weapons, I really don't have no idea, honestly, how, if they just sit in cover 3, can they really slow down C.J. Stroud? Because if they go cover 1, cover 1's man. You think they got the DBs to run with Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell? No. If they go cover 4 sounds like zone, but once you get vertical, it turns into man. Can those guys guard, again, that trio? And Dalton, with Joe Mixon coming out the backfield? I'm not too sure about that. So I'm really interested to see, like, what does Gus Bradley scheme up to kind of slow them down? And can the Colts front be able to get after CJ? Because if they can't, it might be a 40 ball. Because it doesn't matter if it's cover 3, cover 0. It might be a 40 ball. It doesn't matter what coverage they play if they can't get any pressure on 7.
40 ball in a season
40 ball.
There. That would be interesting. You just take a look at these numbers here. He was 6th in yards and 5th in touchdowns, and this is just when they were facing single high coverage. Now, mind you, this is last year before you add a guy, a former Pro Bowler, potentially a future Hall of Famer like Stephon Diggs. How dangerous can he be in this offense?
He's going to be in the slot a lot. So I don't know if you have maybe, 2 or 3 nickels in the entire NFL that can guard Stephon Diggs. I'll give Kenny Moore some credit. He's one of the better nickels in the NFL, but there's not going to be that many cornerbacks, nickel corners or safeties that can truly guard Stephon Diggs. He's going to be a lot in the slot. Obviously, he'll be outside when they go like 2 tight end sets, but having that security blanket is going to lead to a lot of explosive plays because you're going to have to put attention on Stephon Diggs. You have to. Doesn't matter what he did at the end of last season, he's still Stephon Diggs, and that's what he looked like a lot at training camp. So that's only going to open up one-on-ones for Nico, one-on-ones for Tank. And we saw what they did when you left them one-on-one. We saw what Nico did when it was just him out there by himself. Whether it was the Colts game to end the season, which put them into the playoffs, or the Broncos when Tank Dell went down, he still went for 190. And I believe Patrick Surtain, one of the best cornerbacks who just got paid and he deserved his money, he went for 190 against that defense. So having Stephon Diggs, you have in the slot to open up stuff for Nico and Tank, it could be a movie.
As C.J. Stroud mentioned, is a 5-headed monster for the Houston Texans and this offense. Now, of course, we have to go into the film room with the QB guru, offensive coordinator himself, Pep Hamilton. We'll take a look at this cover 3 here that the Colts like to run. Gus Bradley, I know you have some history with him.
Right.
What makes his cover 3 different from maybe some other instances?
Well, first and foremost, I had the opportunity to work with Gus at the Chargers during the COVID year, 2020. And he was our defensive coordinator. And I was very familiar with Gus because during my time when I was previously in the division, the AFC South, Gus was the defensive coordinator at the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Gus is a part of that Seahawks cover 3 family where they play a form of cover 3 that is different than your traditional spot drop cover 3. Their cover 3 is solely predicated on the departure of the receivers into the secondary, and they try and match and read routes. And what you're going to see from this clip is you're going to see what we call a change of strength motion, which activates an invert by that far safety. So let it roll, Chance. All right, you can see the safety starting to work down. Now, pause it right here, okay? All right, DJ just talked about how effective the Texans have been against their cover 3, their corners, who tend to play more off coverage. All right, but Gus's strategy is to bend but don't break. Let's not give up the big play. All right, but we're calling this cover 3, but the principles of the coverage is different than your traditional 3 deep coverage where you have 53 1/3 yards to defend, and each of the corners and the safety that's in the middle are just playing a traditional, defend your zone coverage. In this case, the way that they play it is they have a 60-40 safety. That's what we call that technique. Instead of the safety being in the middle of the field, the safety is going to favor one side of the field and give you just the appearance that is cover 3. But actually, the far safety, the safety that's rolling down, he has seam drop principles. And so the presentation pre-snap, it looks like cover 3, let it roll, okay? But ultimately, if number 2 was here and he was to go vertical, that safety would carry him down the seam. Now go back, all right? So what you see in this clip, okay, you see a conflict that was created by this play action pass, okay? The play action that CJ showed. All right, the Texans offense is built on this ability to run outside zone. All right, so in the case of them showing, all right, play action pass, you're going to get a reaction from the second level of the defense. These corners are still playing a bell technique, which gives Nico an opportunity to run a bench route with one defender, all right, in his third or half of the field. Easy pitch and catch for CJ to Nico on this clip against the Colts.
I expect to see a lot more of that, especially, obviously, as you mentioned, as much as they go into that cover 3. I really like this concept. What are some other concepts really quickly that really work against a cover 3?
So we like to call them speedo routes. We're talking about routes where if you, I don't know if you have any more clips, but we're talking where now we send a receiver vertical to clear out the corner, right?
And who might that be this time?
All right, I think this time around, it's probably going to be Tank Dell. So you send Tank vertical to run a post. He's going to get the attention of the corner. He's going to get the attention of the safety that's deep to his side. You notice I didn't say post safety. The safety that's deep to his side. And what he's going to ultimately do is clear out a zone, and they're going to replace that zone with receivers that are coming from the opposite side of the field. Whether that's Dalton Schultz, all right, whether that's Nico Collins, and everybody in the stadium will be looking for Stephon Diggs to catch more balls than anybody else on the team.
Absolutely. We'll talk plenty more about Texans and Colts coming up after the break. Welcome back to Texans Pep Talk. It is now time for Buy or Sell. Of course, Pep Hamilton is with me and DJ Bieniemy, but I also like to bring in someone as well. Landry Locker from the locker room will join us in this Buy or Sell. We got plenty to talk about. And I'll introduce a topic, and I want them to stand on whatever side they agree with, whether you buy the topic or you sell. So we'll start with the divisional threat. The Houston Texans' next opponent in Week 1, the Indianapolis Colts. Are they the biggest threat to the Houston Texans in the AFC South? Do you guys buy or sell that?
I'm selling it.
Okay.
I'm selling that too now.
You playing in the middle?
I'm playing in the middle. I'm sitting right here in the middle.
Can't play in the middle.
I gotta play in the middle.
Gotta pick one. It's
This
TV.
is why, guys.
Let me hear this.
This is why, and this is the explanation. As excited as we are about the Texans, and the Texans are the favorite to win the division, right now they're even money. If you're a betting person, you're even money. So if you bet $10, you're getting $10 back. Jacksonville and the Colts, they're 3-1. Which is too extreme to me because we can go back to Week 18, and Pep, you know this. Sometimes you can point to if they hadn't lost to the Carolina Panthers, we would have won the division. You can point to that. But if the Colts catch a pass, they score a touchdown, they're division champs. If the Jags, Trevor Lawrence doesn't throw an interception in the end zone on Week 18, they're the division champs. So I think this is a three-horse race. I think this is a three-horse race. It is a bigger if than we think, but I think it's a three-horse race, and I think it's good value. I know where DJ sits. You kind of have the internet going nuts.
I mean, I was on the Colts side at one point. I thought they were going to win the division, but reading some of the reports strictly about Anthony Richardson from a passing standpoint gives me pause to concern, right? I'm big on quarterbacks. If you're going to be dynamic with your legs, fine, but you got to be able to make a lot of throws from the pocket and be consistent there. What we love about Lamar, even though he can run at a great level, he can also pass the ball very effectively. One year when he won MVP, led the league in passing touchdowns. So read some of the reports coming out with Anthony Richardson. If he's not going to be an effective passer, I can't be all in on that. So I think the biggest threat in my eyes is the Jags now.
Pep, I see you selling that too.
So it's a quarterback-driven league. Anthony Richardson really don't have enough time on task to justify buying that the Colts are going to be the threat that you expect them to be, right? I would say Trevor Lawrence, it's time. You know, he's been compensated. You know, they've put him in the upper tier of offensive players in this league with what he's being paid. But ultimately, I think the Jags are kind of under the radar, but you do have a young quarterback that has shown signs of greatness.
Well, the next topic, we'll go into award winners. C.J. Stroud was projected as one of the guys who could win MVP. So for this one, the Houston Texans will have at least one award winner at the end of the season. Are you buying or selling that? Right now you're on the sell side. You're buying that the Texans will have an award winner.
C.J. Stroud, offensive MVP in the National Football League.
Wow, okay.
That's not a reach. You know, I think when you look at the weapons that he has around him going into this season, as well as they play indoors, I think the numbers are going to be off the chart. The head coach is a dynamic leader, and I think ultimately this team has a chance to exceed the expectations that we have for them in this town.
You're standing right there with them. Why are you buying that?
I'm a big believer in CJ, but my award winner is going to be Derek Stingley. And because if CJ, as great as he's been,
we're talking about Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, we haven't seen CJ play. We've seen him play MVP caliber ball for certain stretches, but you're gonna have to elevate this much. When Derek Stingley's on the field, we saw it last year. He's elite. He is. It's not a question of can he put it together. It's can he stay on the field. Now that might be a big if, but Derek Stingley for me, I'm gonna go ahead and pick him. I think even if he misses a couple games, and the other thing about it, and I think this adds to Pep as well. You got 6 primetime games. So if you're on Stingley Island for 6 primetime games, we remember the Revis Island hype.
Yep.
Part of the reason that was such a big deal was because Revis was on TV all the time, and you
That's
heard
true.
Collinsworth gush over him for hours.
Yep.
There's 6 opportunities on every network possible where they can gush over CJ, they can gush over Derek Stingley, and I'm just going with Stingley just because I think it's very, very hard to be MVP at the quarterback position. But there's a reach. Well, I think to elevate your play that much, quarterbacks are always going to be MVPs. I just think it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
DJ, it looks like you might change your position now.
No. But he's mainly saying, like, you know, it's going to be hard for CJ to get into that.
Yeah.
Be that one.
Right.
Basically, you have to.
The quarterbacks, that's all they talk about.
I know, but I'm saying like
That's all you talk about. That's all you talk about.
I think it'll be Mahomes this year. I think now that he has more weapons, I think that he'll probably win MVP. But I do think CJ will probably finish in the top 3. So that's why I'm kind of selling. And even with Coach of the Year, right? That's another opportunity. But I think the Texans have high expectations already. So if they say they win 11 games, get to the divisional round, they kind of met expectations. Where Coach of the Year is based off of do you exceed expectations? So
Mahomes has a young left tackle. Did you see how many times he got touched last night?
that's true.
All right.
That's true.
And I'm not knocking. I mean, they have talent. Hollywood Brown wasn't even out there last night, right? All right. But at the end of the day, the quarterback on one of the better teams in the league has an opportunity to win MVP over other positions.
Sure. We saw how the newcomers impacted the game in Chiefs versus Ravens, but what about the Houston Texans? Stephon Diggs will be the most impactful newcomer. Are you buying or selling that? You've been staying on this side.
I'm gonna buy that.
You're buying that.
No, I'm selling.
You're the right side. You're on the right side. Why are you pointing? So why are you buying that, DJ?
Because I think, based off of what I've seen with Stephon Diggs in training camp, and every time he gets with a new quarterback that's a Pro Bowl level quarterback, they end up having one of their better seasons of their career. Whether it's Kirk in 2018, whether it's Josh in 2020. So I think that CJ is going to have one of his better years, and I think a lot of that's going to do with Stephon Diggs, with everything he's going to open up, and how he's going to make the entire offense better. So I think he's going to probably have the biggest impact, in my opinion. Because you think he can win MVP, it's because you had a guy like Stephon
Diggs.
Dalton Schultz, Nico Collins, Tank Dell is the reason that I'm selling that proposal, right? But I will say this, okay? Stephon Diggs requires double-digit targets in every game, and I just don't see that happening.
See, I'm kind of along the same lines. I think when you talk about impact, we've seen Will Anderson banged up, and there wasn't really anyone that could kind of fill that void. At receiver, like if Nico or Tank are out, they can kind of pick it up for each other. So I actually think I'm going with Danielle Hunter. I do think Diggs leads the team in touchdowns, and I've seen what you've seen at camp.
Yeah.
That obviously they already have a connection. But I'm just going with Danielle Hunter just because I think having those two guys on the edge and the fact that Will has been banged up, I think that's more impactful.
Really quickly, I know you're staying on defense as well. Who's your guy?
How do you say his name again?
Azeez Al-Shire.
Bam. Azeez Al-Shire.
I say AAS.
All right, really quickly, why?
For him to come in and be voted a captain says a lot about the impact that he's had off the field. And
Stephon Diggs was voted captain too now.
Right, but there's not 4 or 5 other linebackers that are of the caliber of Al-Shire.
Right.
There we go. All right. Now, as we get into week one, the fellas here have made their picks. We'll show them on the screen right now. I know you had your pick yesterday. You had who winning and losing between the Chiefs and the Ravens?
Yeah, I went with the Baltimore Ravens.
you already lost that one.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Texans Colts. Who do you have winning between the Texans and Colts in week one? Pep.
Well, I have the Texans winning this game. I know it's going to be a tough game. They're on the road. But at the end of the day, I do feel strongly that all the weapons that the Texans have on offense, why not? Go in there. It's still a guessing game as far as how Anthony Richardson is going to come out and play in a regular season game. That's a big game in the division.
DJ?
Oh, I'm easily going Texans. I just don't think that they
said 40 ball earlier.
It could be a 40 ball. I just don't know. Like, as long as Laramie's out there, I just don't know how the Colts are going to be able to get enough pressure consistently to affect, the defensive backs and be able to disrupt C.J. Stroud and things of that nature, unless the X factor will be DeForest Buckner. If DeForest Buckner can cause havoc on Drew Scruggs and Kenyon Green, now we might be able to, have a different discussion. But I think they'll be able to hold up just enough to where C.J. Stroud and those weapons will be able to have fun with.
I'm with both of you guys. I think the Houston Texans go into Indianapolis and they win. C.J. Stroud has another big game. I think we see an impact from Stephon Diggs. And the Colts, they haven't won in their season opener in a really, really long time. I think that trend continues. And the Texans, they start out 1-0 before they come back home for their Sunday Night Football game right here on KPRC. For Texans Pep Talk, he's Pep, he's DJ. I'm Chester Johnson. We'll see you next week.